Barry Morphew said he texted his wife, Suzanne, to wish her a happy Mother's Day. He received no reply. He had contact with his daughters, back and forth, can't get a hold of Mother.
And then someone contacted a neighbor.
Right.
On July 7th, 2020, roughly 2 months after Suzanne Morphew's murder, Brian Turner, who was a computer scientist with the FBI, made a startling discovery. A file was recovered from Suzanne's Apple account. It was 60 lines of notes Suzanne had compiled, notes that were backed up to the cloud between 7:01 a.m. to 7:03 a.m. that Friday morning. It seems Suzanne had gotten up early on Friday to take stock of what was wrong with her and Barry's relationship, possibly with a view to finally initiating divorce proceedings she knew Barry would oppose. In other words, she had to prove irreconcilable differences. And this is going on just 1 day prior to her murder. Suzanne Morphew thinking critically about her marriage, listing each and every one of these irreconcilable differences, 60 lines of apparent issues Suzanne had with her hunter husband, Barry.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. Now, what is so interesting and important about this, besides the timing, is the issue she mentions first. It's very significant that the first issue Suzanne had was to do with suspected infidelity, and her suspicions were based on a discovery she made ostensibly on Barry's phone. The Monkey app can function as a dating website. Although the Monkey app doesn't explicitly market itself as a dating website, it utilizes features such as swipe to match and location-based matching, similar to popular dating apps, to connect users for video chats. Users can also choose to add friends and engage in text-based conversations. It's possible that Barry learned of the Monkey app from his own daughters, and Suzanne believed he was using it himself. Suzanne also mentions an apparent incident involving drinking on New Year's Eve. While drunk, did Barry let slip that he only wanted or needed her for money? Because why else would someone cheat on someone yet still want to be in a relationship with them? If Suzanne's suspicions were true, then she was painting a portrait of a man who wanted his cake and wanted to eat it as well. He wanted to be married to Suzanne, to have access to her inheritance money, but still sleep with other women. That seems to be where her suspicions were going. Now, if you think about that psychology of wanting to have your cake and eat it too, isn't it also a match for wanting to murder someone and expecting to get away with that as well? The third issue has to do with women on Facebook. Barry apparently explained that he made these friends with women because it was good for business. Was that the real reason? We know one of his workers and someone he intended to stay with at the Holiday Inn in Broomfield on Mother's Day was a young brunette whom Barry had recruited to work for him. And do you remember this headline? She denies they were having an affair. This is from September 2020. Does anyone remember another woman, Cassidy Cordova? This was another young woman Barry hired to work for him on the Broomfield job. She sent this text message to Fox 21 at the time, calling the rumors of their relationship laughable. We know Suzanne's account suddenly made a host of friend requests to a number of Jeffs shortly before her death. This was possibly a form of gaslighting to make Suzanne seem like the more errant spouse, as well as to hide the true nature of Suzanne's affair with Jeff Libler from investigators. And then look at this. Lies about deer, pants are unzipped. This provides potentially fascinating analogy to Suzanne's own murder and Barry's alibis and statements regarding his movements at the time. Who better than a spouse to figure out excuses that don't really ring true? Suzanne seems to suspect Barry was telling her that he was hunting or tracking deer when he returned, perhaps from a tryst, with his pants unzipped. Then there's also this one, trip to Colorado, pen on hand. This might be a reference to a name or phone number Suzanne noticed on Barry's hand. Of the first 6 of 60 lines, do you see 4 have to do with infidelity? Well, how would you feel about that? Look at some of the words Suzanne highlights, and remember, this is Friday, May 8th, the day before her murder. Angry, stalking, lied, chased, threatened, took phone, not safe, can't be trusted, oppressive, angry again. There are also repeated references to Barry's many efforts at controlling their finances, often without her knowledge or consent. And then look at these words: threaten, gun, shame and guilt daily, who you really are, control over me, insecurities, sick relationship. And look at this: act like I'm intruding in the garage. The garage is where Barry stored the BAM formula, which is what was used in Suzanne's murder. Money is mentioned again and again and again. She also refers to Barry going AWOL twice when Suzanne was receiving cancer treatment. Literally, when a loving husband was supposed to be present and supportive, this one was absent and possibly, she suspected, cheating on her. Then at the very end of these 60 grievances, Suzanne notes that Barry had accused her of having a boyfriend, and of course she did, she was. Wrote in Al-Anon book, I'm not sure what that is a reference to, but possibly that he'd written something about that in an Alcohol Anon book. And what do you think she meant when she writes, knew I was looking at phone in bonus? I mean, irrespective of the truth of the situation, what is going on here are both spouses looking at one another's phones to find out what's really going on, because they can't rely on that person telling them the truth. I do think once you reach the point where you're looking at someone's phone to find out what's really going on, that relationship is well and truly doomed. The timing of these notes clearly indicate that the unraveling of their relationship had escalated on May 8th to a point of no return. Do you agree with that? In a situation like that, it was very dangerous for Suzanne to be completely alone, as she was on the Mother's Day weekend when she disappeared. So it wasn't really a surprise to many of us when her bones turned up 3 years later in a dusty field just south of Moffat. I'm not going to take it further than that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.